Okay, on part 35, we left off where Coder actually, if this was his little scrap page of notes that he had planned to ask Chris in the interview or interrogation after he had had his polygraph test. And of course, her parents, Shanann, him, Nicole Kessinger, and this is still something I think, oh, I don't let her go down. And then we're going to move right along into part 36. And part 36 is going to be unclassified FBI. The date of this entry is October the 2nd, 2018. And this is Trent Bolte. And it reads, Trent Bolte's date of birth, and of course it's marked out, was interviewed at the Larimer County Sheriff's Office in addition to Coder, CBI, and Special Agent Tammy Lee, who was also present during the interview after being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview. Bolte provided the following information. And of course, this is the same note, and it just goes on to say that this is just a summary, the transcript of it. And there's also an audio and voice and video recording of this, and I will also put it on the channel. I have not got it there yet because we have not gotten to this part of the discovery until now. Now, since we are going to go ahead and read the transcript, I will go ahead and put the video and audio of this transcript on the channel. It goes on to say that, and where it says Bolte, I'm going to be saying Trent. Okay. Trent stated that he met Chris online in 2017. Trent was positive that he met Chris because of the recent media attention that Chris was getting after his wife and daughters were found dead. Bolte stated that he met Chris on a social media app. The app included GPS location and was meant for helping people meet each other. Trent stated that Chris reached out to him first with a message that said, "Hey, how's your night going?" Trent stated that at that time he thinks he was able to tell where Chris was geographically located based on information that the app provided. Bolte thought that Watts was in Loveland when he sent the message to Bolte. Bolte initially, well, I said I was going to say Trent, but you see, I can only say what it's reading here because that's how my mind works, so I guess I will be saying Trent and Bolte. Bolte stated that he used to have pictures of Chris wearing a green camouflage shirt with a lamp in the background. Bolte also stated that Watts listed himself as straight in his profile. Chris originally told Bolte that he wasn't sure if he was straight or gay, but he did talk about having kids ages 2 to 4 years of age. Chris told Trent originally that he wasn't ready to be out and known to the public as a gay man. Bolte stated that on their first meeting, both men knew why they were meeting, and it was for the purpose of having sex. They met up in June of 2017 for the first time. Bolte stated that the first time he met Watts, they had a sexual encounter. Trent described Chris as average build. Bolte saw that Watts was wearing an adhesive patches on his body, and Chris described them to Bolte. Watts and Bolte talked a lot, and Bolte knew that Chris liked camping, hiking, and movies. Bolte described Watts as having trivial tattoos on his back and arms. Bolte stated that Watts used dorky pickup lines with him. During their first meeting, Bolte gave Chris an address, and Chris came to the address in 20. At the time, Bolte was living with friends near the I-25 freeway and Highway 34 interchange. Bolte was staying with a friend named T.J. Jackson at the time. Bolte stated that Watts came to see him by driving a Ford F-250 truck. He stated that it was approximately a 2006 model. Watts was dressed in pajama-style clothing like sweatpants. Balti stated that Watts was very shy at first. Balti stated that during their first meeting, Watts and Balti performed oral sex on each other, and after the sexual activity was over, Watts became panicked and left. Watts sent messages to Balti apologizing for leaving abruptly. Watts and Balti took a 2 to 3 week break from each other after that first meeting. In late July and August, Watts sent Balti another message. Watts wanted to meet up with Balti again, but Balti was in Wyoming. In the second week of August, Balti and Watts met again. Watts was driving a blue truck, and he came to meet Balti at TJ's apartment. Watts was wearing overalls, a sweater, t-shirt, and boots. During their second meeting, Watts was still shy. Balti thought that the meeting may have happened at 1:30 at night, or possibly during the week. Watts was shy and could not give Balti eye contact. Watts was soft-spoken, and Watts and Balti talked about Watts's daughters and his world. Watts told Balti that if he ended up not being a psycho, he might be able to meet his daughters. They continued to talk, and Balti told them about his widow. Balti stated that they did not have sex during their second meeting. 3 days after their second meeting, Watts came to Balti's apartment at TJ's address. They talked for 5 to 10 minutes. In approximately late August or September, Watts messaged Balti again. Watts told Balti that he was deleting the social media app they used to talk to each other, and he wanted Balti's phone number. Balti gave Watts his telephone number beginning in a 719 area code. In September, Watts and Balti talked to each other using Balti's real telephone number. They met at TJ's apartment again, and Balti performed oral sex on Watts. Watts asked Balti for Xanax pills from Balti, and Balti declined to give Watts pills. In October, Balti and Watts talked but did not meet up. Eventually, met a man that would become his boyfriend, and he decided to move on from Chris because Chris was only interested in sex. In late November or December, Balti and Watts began to talk again. And near Thanksgiving time, Balti and Watts began talking again, and Balti remembers Watts talking about his father. Watts stated that his relationship with his dad was rough because his father called Watts a Nancy boy. In December, Balti got a text from Watts wishing Balti a Merry Christmas. On New Year's, Watts texted Balti and told him to be careful and get a designated driver and to be safe. After New Year's 2018, Balti and Watts met up again near the I-25 and Highway 34 exchange near Ulta Beauty Supply Store. That would be Ulta. I'm very familiar with that beauty supply store, as most of you probably are. They talked, and Watts tried to have sex, but Balti denied him. A few days later, Watts and Balti met again in a Buick LaCrosse sedan that was gunmetal silver and approximately a 2012 model. Watts had his daughters with him. He introduced his daughters to Balti and told his girls to introduce yourselves to Balti. Balti stated that Celeste was the cutest little girl and melted my heart. Balti thought that Celeste was 2 or 3 years old at the time. Celeste had a sippy cup and was very bundled in the cold weather. Celeste asked for Baba, which Balti understand meant a pacifier. I have never, in any of the photos, I don't believe, seen Cece running around with a pacifier. I could be wrong, but I cannot remember one. Balti heard Bella ask if she could sleep with you and Mommy tonight, and Balti understood this to mean that Watts was still with his wife. Balti asked Watts about his relationship, and Watts stated that he was in a loveless marriage and was the victim of emotional abuse. Balti felt at the time that Watts was only telling him lies that he thought Balti wanted to hear. Balti encouraged Watts to get help and live out and tell people that he was in fact a gay man. In February of 2018, Watts and Balti met again. Watts unleashed a lot of information about his wife and told Balti that he was tired. Watts had bags under his eyes, sweatpants, slippers, and stated that his wife treated him like he was dumb. Balti told Watts to leave his wife, and Watts retorted with a comment about Balti and his current boyfriend. Balti stated that after that conversation, Watts became shitty and made remarks about Balti and his past. In March or April of 2018, Watts and Balti had another meeting. They talked for 20 minutes. They performed oral sex on each other. They also had sex in the Buick car. Balti thought that it was approximately 11:30 p.m. and was in the Centera parking lot near Highway 34 and I-25. Balti remembers that Watts told him, "I'm going to go home and kiss my wife, and she is going to taste you." Balti was immediately mad at Watts for saying that. From the meeting onward until May, Watts kept texting Balti and apologizing for his comment about his wife tasting Balti. Watts also insinuated that he was trying to find a way to leave his wife Shanann. Balti stated that he thought that he was using telephone number 307, and it gives the number, with Watts until November or December of 2017. From that point on, Balti thought he might have used telephone number 307. It gives another blacktop number. Balti initially stated that the sex was consensual and not for money. Balti then stated that during one time they met, Watts gave Balti $60, but it was only in relation to a comment Balti made about having lost a debit and credit card. Balti described Watts as having a regular build when they first met, and Watts had a tummy that wasn't hard. He stated that he remembered Watts having a plaid gray and black boxer brief underwear. He described Watts as somewhat hairy and had a happy trail from his belly button to his groin. Watts talked about going on vacations to Washington, the West Coast, Central America, Canada, and North Carolina. Watts liked to hike and go camping. Balti stated that Watts told him that his last year in college was around 2012 to 2013, and that he was now proud to be an oil rig worker. Well, see, he wasn't an oil rig worker. He was a field operator. He worked in the fields. He did not work on a rig. So Trent is actually getting his oil, working in the oil industry. He's getting it confused with someone that he must know, that he's putting oil and rig together, workers. But Chris is not. So either way, I don't think Chris has ever worked on an oil rig. Watts told Balti that he had one homosexual experience in high school, but it was only once. Balti stated that he was less than 100% truthful during the earlier parts of the interview with Coder and Lee. He stated that he did in fact meet Chris for sex that he was then paid for. He stated that he and Chris met for sex on multiple occasions, and that Chris paid for sex on multiple occasions. Balti stated that Watts was physically violent during sex on more than one occasion. Watts was physically aggressive with Balti and held him down as he had sex with Chris. Chris also held Trent down on his neck and back, and he choked his neck during intercourse to the point that Balti had to fight Watts off. For additional details of this interview, refer to the digital recording of the interview. And this is going to be Coder's notes that he had taken during this interview. This is Chris Watts messaged Trent Bolte. First message, hey, how's night going? Spacing and GPS estimate, 12 miles away. Trent in Loveland at time June the 27th, 2017. Found out about Shanann and ended it. Originally got face shots, green shirt, camo green, same lamp in background, or some lamp in background. Ask about intentions to Chris, and profile said straight. Chris said he wasn't sure if he was gay or not. Did talk about kids 2 and 4. Wasn't sure if he was ready to be out or not. First meetup mid-June. First time, no belly, not like 2012. Worried Chris might not like him. To thrive, saw patches. Chris explained the patches. Hiking, camping, movies, piercings, trivial tattoo on back and arms, trivial further down shoulder blades. Trent gave address and Chris came in 25 minutes. I-25 Ronald Reagan Boulevard, 75. Trent knew them at her birthday. June and July the 4th was after. Trent knew them at her birthday. June and July the 4th was after. I don't know whose birthday they're talking about. Shanann's is in January. The only one I know that is in July would be Nicole. Nicole's birthday is July the 3rd. TJ were mad Trent brought Chris over. TJ and somebody were mad that Trent brought Chris over there. Chris came in an F-250 2006 modelish. Dressed, PJs, very shy, Chris's clothes off, in spare room, oral sex from both, sex from, I don't know. Next, me messages apologizing 2 or 3 week break. Chris sent message in late July and Trent responded in August. Chris wanted to meet up again. Trent messaged back, but was in Wyoming. Second week of August, met again. Blue truck, came to TJ's as well again. Overall sweater, t-shirt, boots. Second time, 1:30 at night, possibly during work week. Still good, no eye contact, shy. Resend, spoken tragedy. Talked about daughters, his world. If you turn out not to be a psycho, maybe you could meet him. Talked about Trent's widow, kids, widow. Chris was a friend. No sex second time. Trent requested no sex because felt used. Only a back rub and kissing. 3 days later, Chris came unannounced to TJ and requested to talk. 5 to 10 minute talk. Talking in truck, hard hat, and water bottles, pinned up by Dash, late August. Then 3 weeks later, September, messaged on Meet Me. Chris was deleting out, so requested phone number. They were texting late June and messaging. Remember 719 area code? It's not a 719 area code. Mid-September, Chris had number 1 form that Instagram and texted Trent. Suggested restaurant. That was still at Will and TJ's. Watched Who Tucked Johnny, I think. Oral sex. Trent blew Chris. Chris got really shaky. Couldn't imagine anyone doing that to me or my girls. Asked for Xanax. Trent denied. October. Talked, but only short maybe. Text only, not in person. Eventually Trent met his current boyfriend and began Moving on, because Chris was mainly about sex, late November into December began. Trent and Chris talked again. Let's read Facebook post. During Thanksgiving, Chris and Trent talked about Chris's dad, talked about relationship and dad being tough and Nancy boy. YHLN interview. Merry Christmas text. New Year's Eve text. New Year's Eve. Be safe, not drinking. Next time at Alta at APT Centra Part. Caught up. Spoke about dating. Small talk. In Chris's truck, jeans, and continued. Chris unbuttoned pants. Trent denied. Days later, meet up again, same spot. 20 to 25 minutes. Buick LaCrosse, gunmetal silver, 2012. Daughters were with him. Bella on list had behind drive. Celeste behind Trent. Chris, introduce yourself to the girls. Celeste was cutest, melted my heart, and at 2 or 3 at home. Celeste had a sippy cup, very bundled. Hoods. Celeste said Baba for the pacifier, talked about pacifier. Chris said, well, if my wife. Bella asked about, can I sleep with you and Mommy tonight? Trent questioned Chris about Mommy. Chris answered about loveless marriage. Victim of emotional abuse, he told Trent what he wanted to hear. Trent encouraged him to live out. Chris worried about Trent going for him to with him. 2 weeks later in February, Chris was tired, bags, sweats, slippers, unleashed about marriage. Wife was treated him like he was dumb. Trent told him to leave. Chris retorted about Trent staying with Damien. And this says talked a lot. Love. Chris got shitty about Trent and his past. 3 to 4 weeks later, which is in March or April, they are not meeting, or more meeting. 20-minute talk, oral sex both ways, intercourse in Buick, 11:30 at night. March and April continued. After sex, Chris said, I'm going to go home and kiss my wife, and she is going to taste you in my mouth. Immediately mad. 34 texts till May. I'm so sorry I did what I did and said what I said, insinuating he was going to find a way to come out or leave Shanann. First number, second number, until November, December 2017. See Tammy's notes. Happy, insecure, soft-spoken, never said I love you, gave money once, $60, because Trent lost his gift card. Boom, jealous and mean. Eliminate, bad, cry, pay for sex, booty call, liar, nervous, jealous if on TV, studied TV, self-admitted, do-over, only has June, etc. Chris did talk about a 2015-2016 Explorer, underwear, boxers or boxer briefs, plaid gray and black boxers, boxer briefs, somewhat hairy, happy trail, vacations, Washington, West Coast, not California, Central Canada, braces, no, hobbies, repented, hiking, camping, wishes, social media, draws, insecurities, fan of music, events, where from, didn't discuss, 2012 to 2013 last year in college, just did oil and gas because it was good pay, probably in big rig. Well, see, he knew. I mean, as you can tell by now, I don't believe Trent. I don't believe anything he said. I don't think Chris ever had any sort of affair with Trent or anything like that. The things that Trent does get correct It's very possibly the things that he saw on TV. Did Trent do this just to get attention, or was there something more to it? Many people have said there could be a connection there with the mistress, Nicole Kessinger. I don't know. I believe some have even said they have found that connection, something about a rehab. I don't know. I honestly can't say, but I believe there's more to Trent's interview than meets the eye. I do believe that. I believe Trent was possibly brought in to do this interview and to say these things, to sort of maybe just prolong the interview process for whatever reasons, or maybe to throw off of other parts of the investigation. I'm not sure. But that said, if you went through this discovery with me, part by part, then you know by now that 90% of the things that Trent has said is it's not true. And that, that is a very good example right there. 2012 to 2013 was his last year in college. He just did oil and gas because of good pay. And he has pride in being a rig worker. Okay, he's not a rig worker. Now, the only one we even heard in this whole thing right here say anything about people working on oil rigs, there's two that said that. And that is Nicole and him. Nicole said she used to work on the oil rigs. Now, don't come at me for saying that and say, oh, you're speculating. No, that is a fact. Nicole did used to work on the oil rigs. She said she did not want to work on the oil rigs ever again. And Anadarko, being in the office, was her dream job. The only other person that's spoken of quote-unquote oil rigs is Trent. So, there you go. That is a fact. Prior gay sex, high school had done. Tattoos, finished sleeves. Trent goes to Casper, his forearm, ties into everything else, and he looked old. And then over to the side it says, run away together and his house, question mark. Okay, going on down it says protein and eyes. And there's two arrows, so I don't know. Maybe that is where his eyes went, straight ahead and, to the side, to the right, straight ahead at him and continued looking to the right. I don't know what it means, but I'm sure it means something. Okay, going on down. This is going to be a supplemental report from Detective Dave Baumover on the date of 9/25 at 10:24 a.m. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigations occurred. On 8/17/2018 at approximately 10 a.m., I arrived at McKee Medical Center for the purposes of attending the autopsies of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. Refer to the coroner's sign-in sheet for a list of attendees. Prior to the scheduled autopsies, I requested from CBI agent in charge Kirby Lewis a CBI crime scene analysis to also attend for the purposes of photography and evidence collection. Crime scene analyst Eric Bryant was assigned to the task. Refer to his report for additional details. During the autopsy of Shanann Watts, the remains of a fetus was recovered and immediately stored in a cool environment. Shortly thereafter, CBI lab manager Aaron Koning arrived at the McKee Medical Center to take custody of the fetus and transport it directly to the CBI lab. I completed a handwritten cover letter and the RFLE request for laboratory examination and provided the documents to Aaron. Subsequent to all three autopsies being performed, I took custody of the evidence collected by Bryant. It should be noted a medical container storing Celeste's clothing was not transferred to me at that time. It was transferred from the McKee Medical Center to the Frederick Police Department evidence by Sergeant Ian Albert at a later time. While en route to the Frederick Police Department, I contacted Commander Egan to inform him several items required drying prior to be stored into evidence. Specifically, the items that needed to be dried were Shanann's clothes and a sheet placed inside the cadaver bag when her body was exhumed. Commander Egan arranged with the Longmont Police Department the use of their evidence drying closets located within their police department. Upon my arrival at the Frederick Police Department, I met with FPD evidence technician Amanda Purcell to advise her of the perishable evidence items that needed immediate preservation. I also met with Frederick Police Department Officer Perez, who was assigned to transport the evidence needed to be dried to the Longmont Police Department. Refer to his and Frederick Police Department Officer Coonrod for more details regarding the transportation and the drying process of this evidence. Nothing further, Detective Baumhofer. I've just never understood why they had to take the whole and transport it to the CBI lab. It looks like maybe blood from the umbilical cord, or to do that DNA test that was asked, other than them have his whole body. But it's not for me to question. I'm not any sort of forensic. That part's always concerned me. Down we have another supplemental report. This is going to be from Dave Baumhofer, and this is going to be a victim witness complaint from a Christopher Ostrander, and he is from Cheyenne. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigation occurred. On 8/16, while at Survey 319 oil tank site, I spoke with a vacuum truck driver, Chris Ostrander. Chris worked for Complete Energy Services Incorporated and was on site to vacuum the crude oil from the catch pan the east oil tank was drained into. I asked Chris about the oil well site process and what prompts him to respond to a specific oil well site. Chris explained Complete Energy Services is contracted by Anadarko Petroleum to remove the oil and/or water from the oil tanks and separators located at many oil well sites. I asked Chris how often he was called in to drain the tanks at Survey 319. He said it is not a high-producing oil well, so it's not as often as most others. Chris said the last time he was at Survey 319 was on August the 14th at approximately 1400 to vacuum the pit, which is a tank to contain the water separated from the crude oil. I asked Chris if he noticed anything different or unusual at that time. Chris said an Anadarko operator arrived at the site shortly after he did, and he parked east of the oil pump head. Chris said that was unusual because he had never seen anyone parked that far away from the tank area. It should be noted the area Chris described was adjacent and near the area where Shanann's body was recovered. Chris said he didn't recognize the person, but was convinced he was an Anadarko employee because he was driving a dark, full-size pickup consistent with Anadarko trucks. Chris said he spoke with the man who told him he was looking for wrench he lost from leaving it on his rear bumper or tailgate and to check on things. I asked Chris if he was able to get the man's name, and Chris said he did not know, but that man signed his electronic JSA form. When asked, Chris explained a JSA form is a job safety analysis document he completes for each site he works at. When an Anadarko employee is also present at a job site, he requests that they sign the electronic form. Chris said once his JSA form was signed, he went back to vacuum the holding tank, and unidentified Anadarko employee drove off. I asked Chris if he would be able to get a copy of the JSA form for that specific visit. He said he likely could, and shortly thereafter informed me it was available and could be emailed to me. After I provided my email address to Chris, I received an email from Brett Reedus, Complete Energy Services, at 11:19 hours with the associated JSA form attached. I opened the attachment and observed 2 type names with signatures below them. The first was Chris's name and the signature, and the second was Troy McCoy's name and signature. I contacted Commander Egan at the Frederick Police Department and informed him of what I had learned, and requested someone contact and interview Troy McCoy about his presence at the Survey 39 on 8/14. At 11:21 hours, I forwarded the email to Commander Egan, the GSA form I was provided via email. Nothing further. Detective Dave Baumover. And here you will see the notes that was taken from that interview. And it has Chris's name, JSA form, at 1400-ish, backed up to the tank to suck out the pit, showed up later, asked him to sign it, dark full-size pickup, parked east of the wellhead, looking for a wrench and checked things out, was on tailgate or near bumper, went back to sucking out pit, and guy left with something. Okay, and going on down, this is going to be identification for sale from Dave Baumover to David Egan, and this is a forwarded message. This is Complete Energy Services. This is going to be the form that Chris emailed to Detective Baumover, and he said he forwarded the email on. Customer, Anadarko Petroleum. Customer location, Survey 319 in Rogan. Nearest medical facility is Platte Valley in Brighton. He used a vacuum truck. Pull fluid to bottom out pit tank. And of course, I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to go through it. If you want to look at it, you can. I believe this is his notes of the working area. Here it does say, please explain specific toxic gas hazard, toxic gases emitted from the tank and pump. Okay, and here there is a map, and this is Chris's signature, Troy McCoy. And going on down, the supplement report was generated solely for the purpose of generating item numbers from another batch of CDs to be given to DA investigator Kathy Holscher. This batch of CDs contained a total of 28. This is going to be an incident report. Okay, it says event info. The date reported was August the 14th. The times are not indicated, and it was in person. The classification was they were assisting another agency. The supplemental narrative written by Cooksey, and it was written on September the 21st. And then it goes on to say, on September the 21st, 2018, I, Officer Cookley, was working my assigned shift with the Decano Police Department. At about 21:06 hours, I assisted the Frederick Police Department with searching the residence located at 2825 Saratoga Trail. The residence was searched due to circumstances reported to the Frederick Police Department about a possible trespass or burglary with a person still inside. Nobody was found inside the house. Reference Frederick Police Department Supplemental Report in case number for further information. My interactions were recorded by the body-worn camera. No additional information at this time. Okay, this part of the discovery is pretty much exactly what we have been talking about in the previous two videos I have just made about the missing pieces and trying to put those pieces together. Moving on down to the supplemental narrative of Lorraine Fratelli, written date September the 23rd. At 20:47 on Friday, September the 21st, I, Officer Fratelli, responded to 2825 Saratoga Trail to assist on the clearance of a residence in which neighbors saw a person drive up in a car, get out, and walk up to the house. The caller further advised the lights were on inside the garage. Investigation. At the scene, I met with Frederick Police Sergeant Manley, along with Decano Officer Cooksey, Frederick Officer Perez, and Frederick Officer Lyons. Sergeant Manley instructed us on our approach and the teamwork required upon entry. Inside the residence, I assisted by providing cover along the walls and hallways, and I also assisted on clearing rooms on the main level and upstairs. I noticed the home was clean and orderly. I did not see anything out of place. I did hear an activated, audible alarm upon our entry and during our clearance of the residence. During our search of the residence, we turned on lights and opened doors. We looked under beds and searched closets. Upon completing our search, we closed the doors and turned off the lights. The residence was secured at 2124 and there were no persons inside. Down, Weld County Office of District Attorney. So this is the Weld County DA's office, and this was received by Dan Boyle. The involvements, description, Kelly Carmen, witness Kelly Carmen. Address is the Weld Jail in Greeley, Colorado, and that is also going to be the employer. Weld County District Attorney Supplemental Narrative Number 1. Date, time, reporting investigator. 1440 hours, 9/21/18, Dan Boyle. List of miscellaneous documents included with the supplemental report. Jail log reports. On 9/21, I received Watts's jail log reports, the J log, from Nicole Morrell, Weld County Sheriff's Office, involving dates 8/16 through 9/20 of 2018. These reports are initiated by jail deputies on a daily basis, and they document their observations and interactions with inmate Watts. These reports consistently reflect Watts as very polite and compliant. Watts reads his Bible and did receive additional reading material, namely the body of evidence. End of report. And this is going to go on into the J-log reports, and this is where we're going to stop, part 36. When we come back with part 37, we will get straight in to his J-log reports from officers that had contact with him during September the 21st, during August the 16th through September the 20th. Okay, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all of your support. I want to let you know up front that the whole situation that we just read in this part of the discovery about the guy named Chris that met Troy McCoy at the crime scene location 3319, I will be doing a video complete into itself about that. So be looking for that because I'm really going to dig into that. Okay guys, you have a great day, night, evening, wherever you may be, and until next time, this is Unjustified.